She stood once more in the presence of heaven's most sacred dwelling, as the clouds of earthly understanding parted like temple veils, and Ellen White lifted her eyes to behold what mortal minds could scarcely comprehend. The heavenly sanctuary opened before her vision, not as distant promise, but as present reality, breaking through the barriers between finite and infinite to reveal the throne room where Christ ministers before the Father. Here in this cosmic temple that earthly tabernacles could only shadow, she witnessed the Ark of the Covenant resting in perfect stillness beneath the mercy seat, where divine justice and mercy meet in eternal harmony. The ark itself captured her attention with its simple yet profound beauty, crafted not by human hands, but by divine design, containing treasures that held the weight of eternity within their sacred bounds. She watched as the covering lifted, revealing the tables of stone written with the finger of God himself, those commandments that formed the foundation of his government, the moral law that reflected his very character engraved in stone, that would never crumble, never fade, never require revision, because they proceeded from a nature that knows no change, no shadow of turning, no evolution of standard. As her eyes moved across these divine precepts, each one blazing with the authority of their author, she witnessed something that filled her heart with wonder and understanding. The fourth commandment began to shine with radiance that surpassed all the rest. A halo of glory encircled the words, "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy," as if heaven itself was placing special emphasis on this particular requirement. The light surrounding these words pulsed with the rhythm of divine heartbeat, calling attention to truths that earthly traditions had obscured, reminding the faithful that this commandment carried unique significance in the cosmic conflict between truth and error. The voice that had spoken worlds into existence whispered to her understanding that this Sabbath had never been changed by God himself, never been abolished by divine decree, never been replaced by human authority, though earthly powers had attempted to transfer its sacredness to another day. She saw how the papal system had reached presumptuous hands toward heaven's calendar, attempting to alter what God had established from creation's foundation, seeking to change times and laws as prophecy had foretold. But heaven's recognition remained unchanged. The seventh day still bore the seal of divine approval, still carried the blessing of its maker, still stood as the true Sabbath in the courts of the Most High. Through prophetic insight, she understood that if the Sabbath were abolished at the cross, then consistency would demand that all 10 commandments fall with it, for they formed an indivisible whole, a complete reflection of divine character that could not be partially dismantled. Yet she beheld God's law standing unchangeable, eternal binding on all generations, because it flowed from a nature that admits no variation, a holiness that requires no improvement, a love that needs no revision. The cross had not destroyed the law, but had magnified it, showing the lengths to which divine love would go to satisfy its demands while providing redemption for those who had broken its sacred requirements. In another vision that expanded her understanding, she witnessed Christ himself moving into the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, his divine form passing through the veil as our great high priest began his final ministry before the Father. She watched him open the door to this sacred chamber, where the deepest mysteries of salvation would unfold in earth's closing scenes, where judgment would commence, and where every case would be decided for eternity. The very atmosphere of this holy place trembled with the weight of decisions that would seal human destiny forever. Inside this inner sanctuary, she beheld again the Ark of the Covenant, and once more the Sabbath commandment blazed with supernatural glory, its radiance seeming to fill the entire chamber with light that revealed both the holiness of God's character and the standard by which human hearts would be measured. This glory spoke of testing that would come upon earth's inhabitants, a trial that would separate the wheat from the chaff, the faithful from the rebellious, those who would honor God's authority from those who would bow to human tradition. The Spirit revealed to her that the Sabbath would become the great test of loyalty in the last days, the issue around which the final battle between truth and error would be fought. She saw how this seventh-day commandment would serve as the seal of the living God placed upon the foreheads of his faithful people, marking them as those who choose to honor their Creator even when the whole world moves in opposition to his revealed will. This seal would distinguish between those who worship the Creator and those who yield allegiance to the beast power, protecting the righteous through the time of trouble that would test every soul upon earth. She witnessed how the Sabbath would become the separating wall between the true Israel of God and the world, a dividing line that would make clear who serves the God of heaven and who bows to earthly authorities. Those who keep God's Sabbath holy would find themselves united in fellowship that transcends denominational boundaries, racial divisions, social distinctions, brought together by their common commitment to honor their Creator's memorial of creation and his sign of sanctification. The Sabbath would bind the saints together as they waited for Christ's return, creating bonds stronger than earthly friendships forged in the fires of persecution and sealed by shared sacrifice for truth's sake. The glory surrounding the Sabbath in these visions carried a message that resonated through every corner of heaven, a call for God's people to honor him as Creator, whose hands shaped the worlds as Redeemer, whose blood purchased their salvation as eternal King, whose throne endures forever. This threefold recognition found perfect expression in Sabbath observance, which acknowledged God's creative power, remembered his redemptive love, and anticipated his eternal reign when every knee shall bow and every tongue confess his lordship. She saw how Sabbath-keeping would require faith that chooses divine approval over human acceptance, courage that stands for truth when standing costs everything, love that values God's honor above personal convenience. The test would reveal who truly serves God from the heart and who merely professes religion for social or economic advantage. In Earth's final crisis, when keeping the Sabbath might mean loss of employment, social ostracism, legal penalties, even death itself, the faithful would demonstrate that their love for God surpasses every earthly consideration, their commitment to his truth stronger than every human threat. Through these sacred visions, Ellen White understood that the Sabbath battle was not merely about which day to observe, but about the fundamental question of authority that has echoed through every age. Do human beings have the right to alter God's commandments, or must they submit completely to his revealed will? The Sabbath would become the visible test that reveals the invisible loyalties of the heart, the outward demonstration of inward commitment to God's sovereignty over every aspect of life. Those who honor his Sabbath would show that they recognize no authority higher than his voice, no law, more binding than his commandments, no wisdom greater than his word. As the visions closed, she carried with her the understanding that the Sabbath's glory was not merely ceremonial, but prophetic, pointing forward to that eternal rest that awaits the people of God when the great controversy ends and righteousness covers the earth as waters cover the sea. The weekly Sabbath would prepare hearts for that endless Sabbath when all creation will rest in the peace of perfect redemption and the glory of God will fill both earth and heaven with light that never dims, joy that never fades, fellowship that never ends, and the Sabbath that never closes, because eternity itself becomes one great celebration of the Creator's love.